Kiwanis of Rockford. Now, Darlene doesn't know this, but I actually graduated from Guilford High School in 1990, and I served as Key Club Lieutenant Governor of Division 12. So thank you. I love Kiwanis. My life is defined by three things: my family, 4-H, and Key Club. And that is about service to the community. As an attorney, I often have to talk to people about their community service, but as I say, service to the community is not court-ordered, unlike community service. So what you do here has really defined who I am and the values that I carry with me in everything that I do. I am absolutely delighted to be running in the Democratic primary for the 16th Congressional District. Leadership is very important. It's one of the 5 values that I carry with me from Key Club. Leadership, character building, caring, and inclusiveness. Now, the other thing that Darlene doesn't know is when I was in 4-H, when I was 16, I applied for and was accepted as a representative for 4-H's international program to represent the United States in Italy. And your organization gave me a scholarship to help pay for those costs. Wow. So I thank you for that as well. So today you see before you one of your investments. Now, 4-H, Kiwanis, and my mother, in particular, and my father, taught me the importance of being able to appreciate other people's cultures and still have pride in your own country. That those are not two mutually exclusive concepts. When I moved back to Rockford in 2006, I hung my shingle from the living room of my house, and I knew I wanted to practice immigration law. Because for me, there is no greater job than welcoming people to the country that I love best. And that's the American dream. To do a job you take pride in and be able to make a living to support your family. And I am so very proud of my country. So I started my immigration law practice over a decade ago out of the living room of my house. And today I have the largest immigration law firm west of Chicagoland, right here in downtown Rockford. Yeah. And I'm so happy to be in Rockford, my home. Not only do I run a firm, raise 2 children and a husband who's a librarian at Rockford Public, I also volunteer my time with the University of Illinois Extension Service and my kids' 4-H club, which is the same 4-H club I was in, as well as Neighborhood Network, which supports and encourages new neighborhood groups to start throughout Winnebago and Boone County. Immigration law is very complex, in case you don't know. We have well over 250 years of immigration law in the United States. We are an immigrant country, but yet we often have an ambivalent relationship with immigrants in this country. I'm going to talk specifically today about the DACAs, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. Those are kids who came to the United States under the age of 16, have no way to apply for legal status, and currently they enjoy the protection from being deported and a work permit, but President Trump ended those protections earlier this fall. So I'd like to give you some context about DACAs. And we have to start with President Reagan to talk about DACAs. Back in the late 1980s, President Reagan signed an amnesty because we had a large number of undocumented agricultural workers in the United States. The reason is because under our immigration system, even back then, there was no way for them to apply to come to the United States and work when our economy demanded that they come and work. And we had a huge labor demand in agriculture. So people came primarily from Mexico to work, and they settled down and had families, but had no way to apply for legal status. So President Reagan, recognizing the problem, signed an amnesty which allowed them to apply for legal status. It was short-term, it was a narrow window, but the second part of his plan was to create a worker visa program so this wouldn't happen again in the future. Congress never passed the worker visa program. So one good character is treating people with kindness and integrity. And I think that situation applies to our immigration system and DACAs in particular. Back in 2013, I watched a lot of Republicans stand in front of the cameras and say, oh yes, these young people, their situation is terrible and it shouldn't be happening, and I wish there was something that we can do about it, but we have to follow the law. And they completely abrogated their responsibility to treat people in this country with fairness and compassion, and that's unacceptable. But if fairness and compassion is not enough, we can talk about the hard costs and contributions of DACAs to the state of Illinois in this country. So we have 32,000 people here working legally, and they contribute $2.3 billion in Illinois state GDP annually to the state of Illinois, $2.3 billion. So as a practical matter for the state of Illinois, does it make sense to discontinue work authorization for 32,000 people in the state and lose their contributions to our state GDP? Last I heard, the state of Illinois had a very small budget problem, a very small revenues problem. So does that make sense on a purely financial basis? My argument would be no. To the United States as a whole, they contribute tens of billions of dollars. The Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy released a report this year, aside from DACAs, about their parents who are also undocumented because they have no way to apply for legal status. So here in Illinois, we have about 500,000 undocumented people in the state of Illinois. Now, they pay about $750 million in taxes to the state of Illinois every year. How can that be possible if they're undocumented? Why would they pay taxes? Well, the IRS has been very helpful in this regard. If you do not have a Social Security number, but you have earned income in the United States, the IRS issues something called an individual taxpayer identification number. Don't you love the IRS? So people can apply for an I-10 and file their state and federal income tax returns, reporting their earned income and pay their taxes. People do this because, as I learned, representing the United States in Italy and the other international opportunities I've had, and with my work in immigration law, people are generally good. And people are people, and people are willing to shoulder their responsibility for the communities that they live in. At the end of the day, everyone just wants to belong. So $750 million is what the state of Illinois receives in income tax payments, property tax payments, sales tax, and economic productivity in the state from our 500,000 undocumented people in the state. Now, as part of that same study, they reported that if there were a path to legalization, we could expect our state revenues, taxes paid by undocumented people who were then allowed to legalize and get Social Security numbers and live here lawfully, those revenues would increase to $917 million a year. $917 million a year. So it makes complete economic sense to support a path to legalization for people who are here because they had no way to come here lawfully in the first place and no way to apply for legal status now.